All right, let's take care of the news of the day. Unfortunately, another running back down, Don Chaney. This just came out here in the last day, and then we have Trevante Citizen a few days ago. So a couple running backs down. What do we know at this point? I know it's not going to be extensive in regards to a diagnosis. It never is with college football players, but what do we know at this point?
Yeah, Mark. Obviously, we got the news about a week or so ago about Trevante Citizen, high-profile recruit that we got this past class that we had a lot of high hopes for. He went down with a significant injury, I believe, during the first scrimmage. There hasn't been any official details yet that the school has let out as far as how long it would be, but it seems like it could be, injury the whole season, that he could potentially be out, from everything I've heard. So that's one little low blow. But as we know, the running back room is one of those position groups where we have continued to stack talent. And then, of course, you mentioned a guy in Don Chaney who just came back from an injury this past year. So we were hoping, with a fully healthy Don Chaney, everything we've been hearing in the offseason, the progression that he's been going through. He got dinged up as well. From what I've heard, it has to do with the hip. He could potentially be out for at least mid-football season. But there are some, things behind the scenes that say he could be coming back sooner than that. But there's no details on him as well. But, I mean, when you look at this running back room, you still got to go running back by committee. And you still got some big-time players back there. I think we can all agree that Jalen Rooster Knighton is going to be geared up for a tremendous big year for the Miami Hurricanes, with the type of playing style that he's going to be under, and Josh Gaddis. I think he's prone to have a very big year. And then you look at the transfer running back and Henry Parrish Jr., local native from Goulds, Florida, went to Christopher Columbus, played under the running backs coach and Kevin Smith. So he already has familiarity with the running back system and how everything needs to work. And you need some running backs that can not only run the ball, catch the ball out the backfield, but can also, block when needed. And these are two guys that have definitely shown that in the past year or so. So I think those two alone is going to be, something that you're going to have to look for. This running back room last year, your leading rusher was Jalen Knighton with only like 550 or 60 yards, I believe. And right behind him was Cam Harris at only 400. You compare that to, a Josh Gaddis offense last year at Michigan that had a running back with over 1,300 yards, and their second running back was just shy under 1,000 yards. So Josh Gaddis and this offense that he's going to be bringing to the table can definitely show you that you can go with two running backs and absolutely get over 1,000 yards apiece. And that's what I'm looking for in this offense. I want to see two guys. Even though we just said we got two guys down, I think the two guys I mentioned can easily hit those marks, whether that's all-purpose yards or just rushing alone.
Yeah, we talked about it, you and I, a few months ago, and we've talked about it here on the channel a number of times, that it appears as though Josh Gaddis and what he did at Michigan, considering the personnel, is in a lot of ways similar, in a lot of ways different, but in regards to the status of the personnel on offense, very similar to Miami. And then, of course, with Mario Cristobal, very much in line with what Jim Harbaugh does, being offense, run game between the tackle-oriented guys, and then things work off of that. That it being a good fit for the offense that Josh Gaddis moves over from Michigan to Miami, that seems like a good fit in regards to what Mario Cristobal wants to do on offense. And yeah, Hassan Haskins, 1,300 yards, Blake Corum, almost 1,000 for Michigan. So with the running back talent in this room, despite the loss of two, it's a good thing they went out and got Henry Parrish from Ole Miss. So Brad, I know it's difficult to assess this. You're going to know better through the first two games of the season when Miami shouldn't be challenged yet on the scoreboard, but obviously working through things. In regards to the skill sets of these backs, what they do well, what they've done in the past, do you have a feel for how they're going to be used and who may get the most carries and what that distribution looks like?
When you looked at this running back room before these injuries, right, I think one of the key things was Jalen Knighton, being able to utilize him a little bit more with the flexibility of having the depth that we had at the time. I think Jalen Knighton was a guy last year where he was getting heavily relied on in situations where I don't think he needed to, if we had the depth there. And when you looked at what our room was, a week or two ago, we felt very confident that someone in Jalen Knighton may not need as many touches, and he can, be versatile. You could line him up in special teams at kick return, punt return. You could line him up as slot receiver at times, just to have 2 or 3 running backs on the field at once. But now with these 2 running back situations going down, that kind of pushes some things back in the special teams department, in my opinion, where you can't really have that flexibility of now you're, key number 1 back in Jalen Knight, in my opinion. Throwing him out at kick return or punt return may not be an option anymore. But I think at the end of the day, you have to look at the game plan of what Josh Gaddis is going to be bringing to the table. He's going to keep it balanced. Although we named 2 running backs that, hit almost over 1,000 yards apiece, they also had some wide receivers where we talk about the wide receiver room, right? And who's going to be that number 1 guy, who's going to take the lead and be the man in charge. Like we've seen in the past couple of years, it's always been that transfer portal guy. Well, when you look at the Michigan offense last year, they didn't really have a wide receiver that was that number 1 guy. I believe their number 1 wide receiver last year only had 600 receiving yards. And when you talk about a team that ended up 12-2, very balanced attack with just over 440 total offensive yards, these are the type of things that the check marks that you're going to want to see, because when you progress that type of style of offense and the caliber of players and the personnel that Gaddis had at Michigan, and you translate that to the Miami Hurricanes, the personnel is a lot more, upside, in my opinion. I think Tyler Van Dyke is a lot more better than Cade McNamara, in my opinion. When you look at the quarterback play alone, I think our running backs can do just as good as what the Michigan running backs did last year. And then when you talk about the wide receiver group, I don't think you necessarily have to have a wide receiver 1, although I think everyone is looking for that guy. But the second leading receiver in a Josh Gaddis offense, not just at Michigan, but in prior years, was a tight end. And when you look at the Miami Hurricanes, we are very heavy in that position group. And Josh Gaddis has shown, just in the spring game alone, he's going to be very comfortable using not just 1, but 2 tight end sets. And I think this is going to be a big year for Will Mallory, Elijah Arroyo, even a young guy in Jaleel Skinner coming out of IMG, which a school we'll be talking about a little later in recruiting. These are going to be 3 guys alone in an offense where you're going to be looking at a lot of receiving going to those guys as well.
Got Brad Tejada on the line from Canes Insight. Get on over there to Canes Insight. Check out Brad and the rest of this staff there. Brad, let us know best ways to find you, everybody else, everything that you're doing, both with the podcasting and the writing at Canes Insight.
Yeah, man, with Canes Insight, man, we do just about anything and everything. And anyone who follows Miami Hurricanes football in the past, as you know, the dynamic duo in the past of Peter Rees and D Money, that those podcasts have now came back. Peter Rees has joined back with Canes Insight, so that's always big news. So you got podcasts with them. You got the guys over at Canes Insight YouTube channel every Wednesday doing their things as well. And then you could catch us on canesinsight.com, where all of us, are writing up articles daily, weekly, about some of the best recruits and players around the nation, along with our beloved football team. And then you could catch me on Twitter at Tejada Brad there below, where, I like to tweet some information from time to time. But that's where I kind of do a lot of my fan interaction anytime someone has a question.